Hi, I'm Sol, Human Garbage here, and I'm going to talk to you today about the basics of a pitch Bible. That's right, in this first lesson we're going to go over the basic information you should include in your prospective pitch Bible so you can leave out the unnecessary bits in favor of a more streamlined and appealing presentation. In this series, we're going to go over the craft of pitching, and we're going to go over the specific details as to why it's important and other tips and tricks to make your Bible beautiful. So, without further ado, the topic today is the basics of a pitch Bible. So, what are they? So, to start off, title page. It seems self-explanatory, but a title page is important because it shows off the title of your concept, and it needs to include your name and your contact information. It can be an email address, probably not a phone number. Stick to an email address, specifically a business email address. You're not going to want to do embarrassing email addresses. But this is important. It's basically the gateway to your concept that shows that, yeah, you mean business. Next detail is a log line. Now, you may not know what a log line is, but I'll describe it for you. A log line is basically the most basic way you can describe your concept. It needs to be 1 to 3 sentences max. It can't be more than that. This is an essential part of any pitch Bible. It's basically the elevator pitch version of your entire concept. It's the shortest possible way you can get your idea into somebody's head. So, if you don't have a log line, you're pretty much screwed. So if you have a concept and you're having difficulty trying to describe it within 1 to 3 sentences, really have to think about it. It really just needs to be what the audience and the prospective pitch buyer would expect to see from any given episode or the movie or whatever you're making in question. This is the most important thing that seemingly everybody misses out on. So don't forget this one. Next up, you got your story synopsis. So this is about as important as a logline. However, it goes into more detail of your overall concept. It can be about 1 paragraph, so it can be longer than a logline. But this details, again, what a prospective buyer would expect to see from an episode or a movie, whatever you're making, as well as what the audience would expect to see from a typical scene or a movie, a series. This is basically the most broad way you can describe your concept without giving away too much detail or anything like that, but explaining it in a way that any schmuck would understand. So just as important as a logline, don't forget this. Next is world building. Whoops. So next would be world building. So this would be 1 paragraph max describing the world that your concept takes place in, maybe accompanied by a mood board to show the tone and feel, color schemes that you're wanting for your concept. This is not as important as a synopsis or a logline, but it is important to show a prospective buyer of your concept what they would expect to see in terms of the world. Is it a sci-fi thing? Is it a fantasy? Is it a modern thing? Is it a medieval thing? This basically shows them an overview of the world. It is not, however, lore. Do not use world building to describe the lore of your concept, because the lore is overly detailed and it will just bore your prospective pitch buyer or audience. This is not something that needs to be covered in any pitch Bible. Lore is background information that's established once an idea has been purchased. You can have the lore in your head, just not in the pitch Bible. Unnecessary. Keep it out. Do strict world building, keep it simple, and keep it short. If you need visuals, assemble a mood board. If you don't know what a mood board is, it can be a series of pictures that describe the tone and the atmosphere and the setting that it takes place in. You can pull them off of Google. They don't need to be custom made, although custom made ones would be preferable, but it's just to show the tone and the feel of your series. Don't worry about, it being yours. Just needs to show the overall feeling. Just not lore. Next would be character descriptions. Very, very important part of your pitch Bible. You want to describe your protagonist and any significant characters that will be there from day 1. These are the characters that are going to drive your entire concept, so you can't leave this information out. Having accompanying art would also help, but it is not imperative to include it. It just helps, again, establish the mood and tone and atmosphere, that kind of thing, and the style you're going for, but it is not 100% imperative. Just keep that in mind, though. Art is supplementary, not mandatory, but it is very helpful. But what you should not do with your character descriptions is describe every character that appears in your series ever. I see this all the time. People are describing characters that show up in the 4th season, episode 12. Not important. Keep the character descriptions limited to who's going to show up within the first episode or first season if needed. Say if you have an overarching narrative that is established in episode 3 with a villain or something like that. Protagonists and antagonists and any key side characters should be described here. Everybody else, don't bother. Keep it short. And keep your descriptions limited to 1 paragraph as well. Don't take up enormous chunks of the page or the slide presentation to describe your characters. The key for all of this is keeping it short and keeping it simple. You don't need to describe their blood type or anything like that, just their key attributes, personality, what you'd expect to see with them, their affiliation, all this stuff. Keep the lore out of it. Keep it simple. Next would be sample episodes. So you want to describe about a paragraph each, 3 to 5 potential episode concepts for your pitch, assuming that this is a television pitch. If this is not a television pitch, don't worry about it. This is purely for television or some sort of episodic thing. Yes, you want to do a brief 1-paragraph synopsis about potential episode ideas. This shows the potential buyer and the audience what they would expect to see from a typical episode. If your story presentation is a linear one, choose a story that doesn't require describing all of the lore for it to make sense. Basically, you want to describe an episode in the way that makes the most sense. So again, keep the lore out of it, keep it simple, keep it short. Next is artwork. So this is a bit of a topic for debate on how much artwork you should include. The essential artworks you should include would be characters, some world, as in some scenario would see key locations. So if there's a location that's revisited a whole bunch, include artwork of that so the potential buyer knows what to expect from sort of a hub area kind of thing. But really, we need to have enough artwork to establish a mood and a tone and a style, especially if that style is very unique and you're having a hard time describing it in words. Just showing it's worth 1,000 words, pictures worth 1,000 words and all that. So artwork, but make sure that it is in line with the other pieces in your pitch Bible. Don't just throw it all at the end. You need to have it interspersed throughout the pitch Bible so that it really captures the reader's attention. Visuals are what captures a reader's attention. So unless your concept is specifically black and white, try to go for color as well. It really grabs the eyes. You want this to pop with as few words as possible. So assembling as much artwork as you can is important. Do not use generated online character designers. I've seen this a lot as well in pitches, in that people will design the prototype of their characters using those like stock flash character generators online, that kind of thing. Don't do that. Figure out how to commission an artist if you can't draw, or draw it yourself, but never use stock imagery for your characters. You can use stock imagery if you're assembling a mood board, which we described earlier, but never ever for the essential parts of your pitch. Just don't do it, okay? Get custom art, it's very important. Next would be brand extensions. This one really depends on what you're pitching. It'll say if you're pitching a very serious adult movie concept, you could probably skip this one, but a brand extension is basically thinking about what other markets could your concept break into, say toy manufacturing, video game manufacturing, potential for spin-offs, games, all that kind of stuff. So you want to consider this sort of thing. You don't have to go into excessive detail, just 1 to 3 ideas. But this shows that your concept has more earning power than just what you're presenting them. Remember that a pitch is a sale. You're trying to sell your concept to them. You might think you have the best idea in the world, but this is an investment for people. So if you can prove to them that your brand, your concept, has more applications than just what you're presenting them, they can smell money, and that will help, extend not only the life of your concept, but also the marketability as well as the appeal of your concept. So don't fry your brain trying to think of this. This is not imperative. This is one of the lower end things you need to consider. But say if you're pitching something for a preteen audience, especially a kid's audience, you're going to want to consider this. It's very important. If you consider concepts like Peppa Pig, Paw Patrol, just a whole bunch of P series, SpongeBob, that kind of thing, all of them have extremely lucrative brand extensions like this. So keep that in mind depending on what you're pitching. If it's for adults, don't worry so much. But it's something you need to consider for sure. All right, next up is a description of intent. Very important. This should be one paragraph or technically up to one page, depending on what it is, that describes your intentions for the series. So why you believe your concept is worthy of production. Try not to be too flowery about it. You don't want to be like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever, because that's, everybody thinks they've got the best idea ever. Be realistic about your description of intent in that, why do you believe that your audience would want to watch this? Describe the core values of your concept, if applicable, lessons to be learned, characters to get attached to, that kind of thing. But yeah, try not to be too ass-patting about it. Just do your best. Also describe where the best home for your concept is. Say if it's streaming or network television or online distribution. That also shows that you have a plan, that you know where you want this to go. It's best not to be flexible about this kind of thing. Really try to accentuate what home you want this for, because if you're like, I don't really care, bad. That being flippant about any of this is bad. You don't want to be flippant about any of this. So make sure you decide what home this would be best for. Luckily nowadays there's more avenues than ever to get your idea out there, but it's something to consider. So demographics, can you see that? It's demographics. Demographics, very important thing to include in your pitch Bible, and oftentimes I see this one missed out entirely. Demographics just needs to be a very short piece of information that tells your audience or the prospective pitch buyer who this series or movie is for. You don't want to miss out on this, because let's say you're pitching a kid's concept and you decide to go to Adult Swim for it. You don't describe that it's for children, so they just wasted their time. It looks bad on you. It makes them look dumb. So just describe what age group your concept is for. And not with a preteens kind of thing. You can do that, but it's best to do it with an age range. Say 6 to 8-year-old males, 12 to 14-year-old males and females. If you're pitching with a male and female thing in mind, you'll have to do some other stuff, but we'll get into that in future topics. But yeah, don't forget this. Very, very important. Keep it in. And now, bio. So yeah, bio. You need to include information about yourself, who you are. Don't make it long. Don't make it even a page long. Make it a paragraph at the most. Because you need to describe who you are, what your background is, why you're invested in this sort of thing. Because people who are reading pitches, they need to know who you are. They want to get a feel as to if you'd be good to work with. If your bio says, I'm a 15-year-old high school student who hasn't accomplished anything in life yet, it's not very appealing for them, but it's still best to describe yourself. If this is an external pitch, say if you're not pitching it from within a studio's workforce, include a picture of yourself too. Don't include contact information at this point. You should have included it at your title page if you were listening to me. But yeah, this, just a very short description about who you are, not why you think this is the best idea ever, just you. This is about you. But again, try not to make it too ass-patty, flowery, anything like that. Keep it simple, keep it concise, keep it in your head, Lastly, some other inclusions you might want to include in your pitch Bible. It's not 100% mandatory, but it is something to consider. You might want to consider adding some scripts. Now, a lot of the time scripts are not mandatory because, well, if they like your idea, they're probably going to want to work on the script. But it shows that you have some writing aptitude. Make sure that your script is written in a script format. I cannot stress this enough. There is plenty of free software online like Celtics that will let you write in a real script format. It's no different than writing in Microsoft Word. But don't write your script in Microsoft Word unless it's in script format. It just makes you look amateurish, it makes you look like you don't care. Script format! Something else you can include are story or beat boards, or both. Now, I'm sure most of us know what storyboards are. They're a visual representation of your script. So if you have a script written and you want to show it visually, it's a good idea, but it's not mandatory. It just shows that you've really put some thought into this. Or a beat board. Now, a beat board is pretty much the same as a storyboard, however, it only covers the most important beats of a story. They're usually around 8 or 9 panels, depending on how long it is. It depends on how long it is, but yeah, this is only the key information about your concept, not the entire thing. but this is only for specific episodes. So again, if you don't have a script, don't worry about this. If you do have a script, maybe consider this. But again, not mandatory. As well as key art and other supplementary art. So key art is sort of like the poster art that you would include. You've probably seen it if you enjoy anything. They have posters that show what their idea is visually. Same sort of thing. Not mandatory, but it just shows a certain visual pizzazz with your idea. It shows that it's sort of like a moment frozen in time kind of thing. What one would expect to see in a concept, but frozen in time, that kind of thing. So it sort of helps give your pitch Bible a little bit more, but it's not mandatory at all. It just shows that you care. All the supplementary stuff really just shows that you put thought into this. And I just want to add as well. Make sure your script is finished if you're gonna include it. Don't include unfinished scripts. Looks bad on you. So, those are the key elements to a pitch Bible that you should consider for every single one that you develop. Remember though that these are just guidelines. They don't guarantee that your idea will be purchased, and every pitch Bible should be unique. So, consider that before you include anything. I would say that these are essentials, but it really depends on what you want to express with your pitch Bible. It's just something to consider. If your idea doesn't get bought, don't blame me. You gotta try a few times, you know. This is just the basics you gotta know. If you would like a free pitch evaluation, you can visit whatabestudios.com. You can sign up for one. Free 1-hour pitch evaluation for any concept that you have. It's great. I got lots of people doing it, and I like to do it, so make sure you sign up. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the information that I presented here. There will be another Pitch Perfect video. There will be more of these going over more details as to how you can get your pitch made. There will also be other videos in this sort of helpful writing, pitching tip video stuff coming, but that'll come down the pipeline later. For now, this is the basics you need to know. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.